Chevron Texaco's actions in Ecuador are just one chapter in a sinister history. Texaco was part of the birth of the modern U.S. oil industry, with the discovery of oil in Texas in 1901. The reserves discovered there were so vast, a single well's daily production was higher than all other wells in the U.S. combined. Gulf Oil, Amoco, Exxon, and others, in addition to Texaco, were also born in this Texas oil boom, which propelled them to become the world's richest corporations today. Throughout the early 20th century, the marauding of oil monopolies were known to act more like criminal cartels than companies, ruthlessly snuffing out any competition. Its executives were cutthroat too. Texaco's founder was known for flying a skull and crossbones flag atop of his office building as a symbol and warning of their ruthlessness. But his hand-picked successor, Torklid Reber, was no less aggressive as an open Nazi and admirer of fascists. In the 1930s, Texaco became the first U.S. oil company to back Francisco Franco's fascism during the Spanish Civil War, violating U.S. law by secretly selling him oil. In turn, it fueled the deaths of over 500,000 people and the torture of countless others. Texaco also made deals with Italy's fascist Benito Mussolini and even Hitler's Germany, giving critical support to the functioning of the Nazi genocide and expansion. But beyond that, even hired Nazi assistants who provided intelligence to Hitler's army about U.S. cargo ships leaving for Britain. This affection for fascists was also part of their entrance into Ecuador and Colombia. Texaco was part of a mad rush by big oil to reap super profits in Latin America, wherever corrupt pro-corporate juntas and dictators opened their doors. Scoring the oil fields from Ecuador's pro-U.S. business dictatorship in 1964, Texaco took advantage of a volatile, undemocratic state. Texaco promised to use the most up-to-date drilling technology, but they didn't even use their own patented technology already standard in the U.S., and instead employed cheap, banned methods. Today's devastation in the Amazon is largely intentional pollution from these profit-maximizing tactics.
Por ejemplo, Chevron tenía tecnologías más adecuadas. Sabía, por ejemplo, que debía reinyectar el agua tóxica, el agua de formación, hacia el subsuelo. Hay un libro importantísimo del año 62 del Instituto Americano del Petróleo, API, en la que indican con claridad meridiana cómo deben tratar el agua tóxica, cómo reinyectar su suelo para evitar que contaminen el ambiente. Ese capítulo, ese libro fue escrito por los técnicos de Texaco. O sea, Texaco sabía qué tenía que hacer para no afectar el ambiente. Pero eso que predicaba y que lo practicaba en gran parte de Estados Unidos, nunca lo aplicó en Ecuador. ¿Por qué? Por dos razones. Una, por ganancia económica ilícita, o sea, por incrementar su ganancia, disminuyendo su inversión. Y la segunda, por racismo. Chevron considera que los pueblos indígenas del Ecuador y Latinoamérica valen mucho menos que cualquier norteamericano, por ejemplo. La actitud racista de la empresa la llevó a cometer crímenes tan perversos como estos.
Gobbling up this treasure trove in the jungle, Texaco would grow to become the third largest oil company in the world. But decades later found itself falling behind its competitors and embarrassed by public scandals, like the leaked secret recordings of senior Texaco executives calling minority employees racist terms like black jelly beans while discussing a racial discrimination lawsuit. In 2001, Chevron absorbed Texaco and its executives, creating the second largest oil company in the U.S. and one of the most powerful on Earth. Chevron's annual profits are higher than Ecuador's entire GDP, with total assets reaching $266 billion in 2015. Today, Chevron operates in at least 180 of the under 200 countries around the world, with oil, natural gas, and chemical production. When it fused with Texaco, Chevron also acquired its legacy of crimes. But like Texaco, Chevron had its own history of environmental destruction and human rights atrocities. Spawned from the breakup of John D. Rockefeller's Standard Oil monopoly, Chevron invested in vulnerable nations where sovereignty wasn't a barrier. Like Niger in Africa, where there's been a decades-long battle waged between the corporation and Nigerian people. In 1998, workers in the Niger Delta took over an offshore oil platform in protest of substandard working conditions and wages. Chevron then ordered the notoriously brutal Nigerian military to crush the demonstration, and even armed them with helicopters to carry out the paramilitary assault. They opened fire on the activists, killing 2 protesters and wounding several more. In 2005, Chevron wanted to invest in drilling in Burma, today Myanmar, but was prevented by laws aimed at their dictatorship. But by purchasing Unocal 76, which was already operating in the country, they could be grandfathered in. The merger occurred right after Unocal settled a lawsuit accusing them of assisting the Burmese military in murder, torture, and rape of villagers. Disturbingly, Chevron carried on the same tactics. In 2008, human rights groups exposed that the Burmese troops paid by Chevron to guard and expand its oil pipelines shot villagers, ordered them into forced labor, and violently displaced entire villages. Chevron is also under fire for similar human rights violations in Kazakhstan and African countries of Chad, Cameroon, and Equatorial Guinea. The company's contempt for human health and the environment does not discriminate to its home country. In Richmond, California, a poor majority African American community, Chevron pumped out harmful toxins from several major refineries that left tens of thousands stricken with respiratory disease, heart disease, and more. The catastrophe spurred the community into action, waging a grassroots fight against the oil giant. With billions of profits coming from the town, the corporation has invested tens of millions of dollars in the small California city in an attempt to buy the loyalty of local politicians, spending $3 million in campaign donations in 2014 alone. The oil beast also tried to control the community by creating the Richmond Standard, a PR website actually pretending to be a legitimate news source, brought to you by Chevron. Across the United States, Chevron has a long rap sheet when it comes to environmental crimes, constantly paying out settlements for deliberate pollution of ecosystems and communities. But when it came to the poor South American country of Ecuador, Chevron wouldn't submit its dollars so easily.